So today is the last day of my lecture in your wonderful city of Kyiv on this trip. Krishna desires, I hope to be back again in a few months. Nothing happens without Krishna's permission. Not even a blade of grass can move. So I'm going to lecture today till 1 o'clock. So we will first do our obeisances to the disciplic succession, to the Guru Parampara. And then I'll make a short kirtan, so then we can start the reading very soon. So what should we discuss today? I was thinking we will discuss Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes. So Krishna Das Kaviraj, he states that if one remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then if something is difficult, it becomes easy. But if somebody does not remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then what is easy becomes difficult. So Krishna Das Kaviraj says that just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Krishna, appeared as the son of Yasoda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as the son of Sachi. But Krishna Das Kaviraj tells us that though these pastimes may appear to be like the pastimes of a young child, it should not be forgotten that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just like the babies, they lie down and they lift their legs. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lying down on his back and lifted his leg. And on his legs, his parents saw the signs of flag, thunderbolt, conch shell and fish. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father and mother saw, because normally there are no signs on the feet, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lying down and he lifted his feet and they saw all these signs on his feet. They said, oh, this is not an ordinary child. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a young baby, one day he was crying. So his mother carried the baby and started breastfeeding him milk. But when she was breastfeeding him milk, she saw all these auspicious signs on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leg. So when she saw it, she was amazed. And then she called her husband, Jagannath Mishra. Jagannath Mishra then called Nilambara Chakravarti, who was expert in astrology. Just like when Krishna appeared, his parents had called an astrologer whose name was Garga Muni, isn't it? So there was Nilambara Chakravarti. So he said, I have seen that there are 32 bodily marks in a great personality, and all these marks are there in this child. So he confirmed that this was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This boy is Narayan. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore we must have a ceremony soon to keep his name. He said we should call all the Brahmanas. Just when Krishna was born, even though Krishna's father was in jail, he mentally gave away cows and other charity to the Brahmanas. So Jagannath Mishra, the father of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he arranged for the ceremony by which the child would be given a name, and he gave charity to the Brahmanas. Just like, I don't know what the tradition is in your country, but I know in these Western countries in America, when a child is born, they distribute cigars. But in the Vedic system, when the child is born, they distribute prasad to the Brahmins and charity, not cigars. What is the tradition in our country? So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was given the name of Vishwambar. Vishwambar means one who maintains the whole world. Just like your country, it's a very big country, 22 million square miles, isn't it? 22 million square miles. But there's somebody who's running this country. So also there are many universes, and there's somebody who's running all these universes, and that's Krishna. At any one time, there are thousands of planes flying in the sky. And within these planes, more or less life is complete. In some aeroplanes, they even have gambling casinos, and every aeroplane has a bar. So if the materialist, by some manipulation of the air, can have aeroplanes floating in the sky, why can't Krishna float thousands of planets at the same time? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was called Vishwambar, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none else but the personality of Godhead. Chaitanya means the living force. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the living force within every entity. As long as the Atma is there and the body, we have the living force is there. But the moment the Atma leaves the body, there's no living force in the body, and the body is dead. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's purpose was to make everyone chant Hare Krishna. So when he was a young child, he was a very attractive child, all the neighborhood women were coming to see him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would start crying. And when all the ladies would start chanting Hare Krishna, then he would smile. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it clear to everyone that his appearance was to make people chant Hare Krishna. And he was doing this from his very birth. Once there was a Brahmana who had stayed in Jagannath Mishra's house. So he had prepared his offering to offer to the deities. So every time he would cook and get his offering ready to offer to the deities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come from behind and eat it. So it happened once, it happened twice, then it happened again the third time. And the Brahmana was very angry. Every time he was cooking to offer it to Krishna, and before he could offer it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come and eat it. Then finally, after the third time, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed his transcendental form to this Brahmana, but told him, don't tell anyone that I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He showed him his transcendental form. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was young, he was dressed up very nicely with all rich ornaments. After all, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God. So, one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was playing in the courtyard of his father when two thieves were passing by. They said, oh, this child is wearing so much jewelry. So they carried the child, and they were thinking that they will take the child away, then rob the jewelry from the child. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu misled them completely. The thieves were thinking that they were running, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tricked them and brought them exactly back to his house. So the thieves were thinking, we will take the child to the forest and kill him and take the jewelry. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely tricked them. And while they were thinking they were going to the forest, they actually brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his father's house. Story that Prabhupada used to say about, which is connected to this, but not exactly, I'll tell you that story. The moral of the story is that somehow or the other you think of Krishna, you'll get purified. So, once there was somebody who was giving a lecture on Lord Krishna and saying how Krishna is the richest man and how his body is full of decorated with jewelry and so on. And there was a thief in the audience. And the thief was thinking that, oh, this boy Krishna is wearing so much jewelry, let me go to Vrindavan and then I will find this boy Krishna, rob his jewelry and I'll become a rich man. So this thief went to Vrindavan, but he was all along thinking. What was he thinking? Where will I find Krishna so I can rob his jewelry? So one day he finally found Krishna in Vrindavan. And then when Krishna said, okay, you can take my jewelry, then the thief said, no, now I don't want your jewelry. Because by thinking of Krishna, the thief got purified. All along he was thinking, when will I go to Vrindavan and find that Krishna and steal all the jewelry? Finally, when he saw Krishna and Krishna offered him his jewelry, he said, Niyat, I don't want it. Just like yesterday or day before yesterday, I gave you that story of Dhruva Maharaj. How Dhruva Maharaj had this desire to have a very opulent kingdom. Finally, when Krishna gave him that kingdom, offered him anything he wanted, he said, now I don't want. I was looking for broken gut glass, now I found a diamond. So somehow or the other, if we can train our mind to think of Krishna, then the mind will go away from lust, anger, greed, envy, hatred. Otherwise the mind is our enemy. Manai eva manusham karnam bandhai moksha bandhai vishai sango muktai nirvisham manaha. The mind can be the best of friends and the worst of enemies. The mind which is uncontrolled is the worst of enemies, and the mind which is controlled is the best of friends. So you see, there is so much for us to meditate upon. It is not that in our books we only have one pastime which Krishna gave, or one pastime which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu displayed, or one pastime Leela of the other devotees. No, the books translated by Prabhupada translated nearly 80 books. There is so much material to meditate upon. We just have to understand the importance of the spiritual meditation. So we must make one resolution. Just like the karmis on January 1st of every year, they make some resolutions, isn't it? They say, okay, this year I'm going to reduce my cigarettes, I'm going to reduce my smoking, or whatever. They make New Year resolutions. The devotee must make one resolution. And that resolution is he's going to try and control the mind. Therefore, I often state that there are 5 regulative principles to follow in ISKCON, not 4. 4 we know, huh? No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat, fish, eggs, no gambling. But the 5th is to controlling the So if you control the then spiritual life will become easy and sweet. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Sanskrit scholar. He was studying grammar at the place of Gangadas Pandit. And only once the teacher would explain the rules of Sanskrit grammar, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have it in his heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the #1 student in his class. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the best student in the class. He always used to come out first. One day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told his mother, I want to make one request to you. Will you please grant me that request? I want to request, my dear mother, that you please stop eating grains on Ekadasi. So, because Prabhupada says in the purport that to eat grains on Ekadasi is very sinful. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested his mother, Sachi Mata, she stopped taking grains on Ekadasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had an elder brother whose name was Vishwarupa. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's parents, they wanted to get Vishwarupa married as soon as he became a little older. But as soon as Vishwarupa heard that his parents are trying to get him married, he left home and took sannyas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's parents said that their elder son is taking sannyas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear parents, please do not worry, I'll take care of you. So later on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was married to Lakshmi Devi. So as we said earlier, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when God descends, he plays the perfect role. Just like Krishna. Krishna also, when he appeared, he was playing the role of a very obedient son, an ideal king, even when Lord Ram was present on the planet. So the Supreme Lord plays a perfect role so that others can be attracted to his idol example. So we should never think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like an ordinary man, or he's just like an ordinary grihasta. How is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a big Sanskrit scholar. All students would come to him, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching them Sanskrit. And everyone, just by hearing from him once, they would learn, they would understand it very thoroughly. His explanation was so thorough. So hundreds of students would come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted them all to first-class scholars. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also started the Sankirtan movement. And the Sankirtan movement was started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in East Bengal, and this was started when he was young. And gradually the Sankirtan movement expanded all over the country. There was a Brahmin by the name of Tapan Mishra. The Brahmin Tapan Mishra came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, you please go to Banaras, and I will see you over there later on. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread the Sankirtan movement. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in East Bengal one day, his wife Lakshmi Devi, she was bitten by a snake, and then she died. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was concentrating in preaching through the Sankirtan process, and his wife was back at home. So she was very upset that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always traveling. And she was bitten by a snake and she died. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu married the goddess of fortune, Vishnu Priya. And he defeated a very big Sanskrit scholar called Keshava Kashmiri. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the bank of the Ganges, he would be holding his Sanskrit classes with his devotees. Just like some of your devotees who have been to Mayapur, they may have told you that every day at the bank of the Ganges, our ISKCON devotees go. They go with some sannyasi or some guru, and he gives them a class on the bank of the Ganga. So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to have classes on the bank of the Ganges. And there was one a big Sanskrit scholar called 𝐾𝐲𝐿 Kashmiri. So 𝐾𝐲𝐿 Kashmiri was a very, very proud Sanskrit scholar. He had composed a very long poetry with 100 verses. When he chanted the poetry, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything. So 𝐾𝐲𝐿 Kashmiri was surprised. He said, aren't you listening? But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted it back and he pointed out all the faults. So then 𝐾𝐲𝐿 Kashmiri was defeated. Then Goddess Saraswati came in his dream and told him who this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Then he became his devotee. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, later on when he grew older, he was initiated by Ishvara Puri. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also showed his universal form to Advaita Acharya. Now, as we said, the Supreme Lord always sets an ideal example. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also accepted a spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. Just like when Krishna came on this planet, he also accepted a spiritual master. Who was Krishna's spiritual master? Sandipani Muni. So, just like Krishna accepted a spiritual master, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also accepted a spiritual master. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also showed his universal form, but he showed his universal form to Advaita Acharya. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very often people ask us, Jesus Christ did so many wonders. Did your God do any wonders? The Christians say, Jesus Christ brought so many dead people alive. What has Krishna done? So Krishna displayed many forms, and so did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his Sadbhuj form to Nityananda Prabhu. Sadbhuj form is a form in which the Lord has 6 hands. 6 hands, huh? Did you hear about this form before? This form is a combination of 3 incarnations. The form of Sri Ramchandra is symbolized by a bow and arrow. And the form of Lord Krishna is symbolized with what? A stick and a flute, because Krishna has a flute and a stick to take care of the cows. And the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is symbolized with a danda and a smart boy and a water pot. So, after showing his 6-handed form, then he showed him his 4-handed Narayan form, standing in a 3-curved position. And finally the Lord showed Nityananda his 2-handed Krishna form, playing the flute. So the point is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we take advantage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, then we can fulfill the goal of life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions are very, very simple and very, very practical. They are not complicated. Just like you see in your country, none of you are Sanskrit scholars or even scholars in the Vedic scriptures. But just by taking advantage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's basic philosophy, all of you are making spiritual advancement. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized this. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva eva gatirnatha. Chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. And by chanting the holy names, they will be the development of love of God. So a Vaishnava, he does not ask for anything. He only asks for the benediction that he may always chant the holy name. Because the holy name is the greatest treasure for the Vaishnava. You know that story of Sanatana Goswami and the touchstone? Everybody knows that story? So the story is very important because the story, even though it is very simple, but it has a very, very great purport. So once there was a Brahmin who was very poor. And a poor man always thinks only if he becomes rich, all his problems will be solved. Just like a diseased man thinks if only I become healthy, all my problems will be solved. So the Brahmin had worshipped and he had got a benediction by which he could go to Vrindavan and obtain from Sanatana Goswami a touchstone that could convert everything into gold. So when he went to Sanatana Goswami, he said, I'm very poor, I want to get my daughter married. In India, to get the daughters married, you have to spend a lot of money. So he said, I want to get my daughter married, I need some money. So that's not a great sage. He said, no problem, I have a touchstone that will convert everything to gold. He said, where is that touchstone? Under that garbage. So the Brahmin really saw The touchstone is converting everything into gold. So he was very happy. But then one intelligent man met him and he said, "Oh, who gave you this touchstone?" So when the Brahmin told him the whole history, then that man said, "If this was the most valuable thing this great sage in Vrindavan had, why did he keep it under a heap of garbage? You don't keep anything valuable under garbage. Surely he must be having something more valuable than this." So when the Brahmin went to Sanatana Goswami said, "Okay, if you want the most expensive thing, then throw away this touchstone." Why? Because to get love of God, you have to throw Maya away. You cannot have bhoga and sense enjoyment at the same time. There's a saying in English, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You make a very nice cake and you say, "Oh boy, this cake should always keep appearing beautiful." But at the same time your stomach says, "Come on, I want to eat it." So you want to eat the cake, but at the same time you want it to be there to look beautiful. It's not possible. So just like you cannot have the cake and eat it, you cannot have Maya and Krishna Prema at the same time. To have one, you have to throw the other out. That is known as tapasya. Therefore, spiritual life is based on tapasya. And without tapasya, there cannot be spiritual life. About this, there should be no secret. Prabhupada never told anyone, you can have Krishna and sense enjoyment. When Prabhupada went to America in 1965, at that time there were so many so-called Swamis from India trying to, attract the American youth. But Prabhupada did not compromise. He told them clearly that if you want to understand the purest person, you have to become pure. So you have to give up sense enjoyment. So if we want to develop real Krishna Prema, then we had to make some sacrifice. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, chant the holy name. And Krishnadas Kaviraj says that we should write down the holy name round our neck, and we should always be associated with a holy name. So Krishnadas Kaviraj has explained, Bhau janma kare yadi shravana kirtana tabhutana paya Krishna pade premadhana. One may go on chanting the holy names of Krishna again and again and again, birth after birth. But till he comes to the stage where he chants without offenses, he will not be able to develop love of God. Bhau janma kare yadi shravana kirtana tabhutana paya Krishna pade premadhana. Nama bhase and nama prad. These are the offenses against the holy name. So there are 10 offenses against the holy name which we should all be aware of. Just like yesterday we discussed 26 qualities of a devotee and we discussed different principles of surrender. We should also be aware of the offenses that we should avoid in chanting the holy names of Krishna. So the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, please tie the holy name round your neck, because if you tie the holy name round your neck, you will never forget it. So I see you Soviet devotees are very, very creative. You make all these pendants and so on. So somebody should make a pendant of the holy name and put it around his neck, because this is what Krishnadas Kaviraj says. And if you put it around your neck, he says he will never forget it. So Prabhupada says that one must chant the holy name according to the principles of Trinadapi Sunichena, what we discussed yesterday. And if we are avoiding the offenses, then we will be able to make spiritual advancement. So the 10 offenses to be avoided in chanting the holy name. Do all of you know the 10 offenses? Do you know the meaning of the 10 offenses properly? One other point that I mentioned was yesterday we discussed the principles of surrender, the 26 qualities of a devotee. So we should also know the offenses that we should avoid so that we can make our chanting pure. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare